Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real True Believer YouTube channel. My name is L.A. Hale, and I want to start this video off with kind of something that I saw on, again, Christian Posts. It's one of the main websites, Christian websites that I go to and try to just find topics and articles to kind of talk about, just things that I feel like, should be shared a little bit more. And I just want to bring to this channel. So I want to start off by talking about this article, talking about a shrinking number of churchgoers are participating in small groups. And for those of you who don't know, small groups are basically a little, group, maybe sometimes 6, 8, 10. I think the most really a small group should have, or small groups usually have, is probably 12 to 15 people. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but small groups are something to where you can get a more intimate Bible study and talk about certain topics that perhaps maybe the pastor doesn't expand upon in the regular church Sunday services. So small groups, and this survey is saying that small groups have started to become smaller and less people are participating in small groups. And I just want to talk about maybe why that's happening, especially from my own perspective. This is, again, my opinion, my point of view. This doesn't, this is not across the board what all Christians think. But I think the reason why small groups are becoming less and less, how to say, less and less popular among Christian circles is maybe what are we talking about in small groups? I think small groups, and this is just from me personally. I was in a small group one time, and it was like it was delegated from the head church on what the small groups were talking about, even though there might be people in that small group who are going through things that maybe the church isn't necessarily talking about that particular week or month or what have you, that period of time. Most churches, they get their sermons from like an umbrella corporation, and then the umbrella corporation dictates down to the lower churches, this is what you're going to be talking about for this amount of time or for this month. We're going to go through this season of talking about these sermons and this particular topics. And I feel like small groups should be apart from that. Small groups should be something that is personal, that it's basically a group of young folks getting together, or however, what type of small group you have, whether it's for older married couples, couples with kids, young teens, older teens, college age, people, what have you. I think the small group should be disconnected from the main topics that are talked about within whatever church organization the small group is a part of. And what I mean by that is, so per example, there was a time when I was in a small group and I was struggling through a lot of emotional trauma and pain. My mom had recently passed away, and I was kind of tumbling down again during my one of my several prodigal son roads that I walked down. I was struggling mentally with losing the fact that I had lost my mom. And I was going and getting into things to help me deal with that weren't necessarily beneficial spiritually for me nor physically for me. And just kind of dispel the mystery. I was getting into a lot of drugs. I was drinking a lot. I was, smoking a lot of, cannabis, and I was taking some hard drugs, and it was really just to kind of fill up the hole and pain that I had in my heart. And I wanted to bring, not just espouse and vomit my pain upon everyone else within the small group, but I wanted to talk about how a Christian is able to move through emotional distress. Something as distressful as losing a family member, or maybe, breaking up from a relationship or what have you. And it just seemed to me that when it comes to the church, especially amongst Christian churchgoers, they don't want to talk about the hard things in life. It just seems like Christianity really only wants to hit the surface, and that's it. We want to touch on, oh, I'm going through the deep waters, type thing. And then that's it. It's like, oh, when you're going through hard times, the waters might be rising above you, but don't worry, Jesus got your back, and it's, yes, I agree, Jesus does have your back, but it is something different to really get into the nitty gritty of what is affecting people that are going to church. And I think that's what small groups initially were started as. My not saying that they were started as an emotional support group, but I feel like it was meant, at least in my opinion, it was meant for the individuals within that small group to bring up personal things. And if you have a church, umbrella church organization dictating what you are to talk about within the small groups that you are having, whether it's every week or every other week, I feel like it pulls away from the opportunity for people to actually expound upon and say the things that are hurting and that are on their heart. And again, I'm not saying that you should just go into a small group and just vomit off all the personal things that are happening to you. But I just think, again, it is something that, small groups are meant to have a more personal, intimate connection with one another. For Christians who haven't gone through bad things to listen and hear stories of Christians who have gone through bad things, and vice versa. And for in the middle, for those two groups to be able to understand one another more. There might be many Christians that have walked down the prodigal son road and might look at life with a jaded sense of pessimism, whereas you have other Christians who haven't walked down the hard road. Maybe they just personally kept themselves away from those things, away from bad, influences, and yet they have a more optimistic, more a joyful look on life. And I'm not saying that either side is wrong, but I think small groups were meant to kind of mend those two groups together so they can truly live a true godly Christian life in this world that is completely going crazy each and every day. And I want to caveat with small groups on talking about this, where attacks on Christian schools are inevitable amid rising, permeating society, Christian education expert warns. And this is just, pigtailing off the attack on a Christian school a week ago, where you had 6 people who were murdered. And, again, I think this is something that should be talked about in small groups. Again, stop having it where this is the topic that this small group is going to be talking about. It should be, hey, folks, hey, Christians, we're getting together, other believers getting together and just being like, so what is on y'all's minds today for this week? What happened? And go around a circle. And yes, the first several meetings is probably going to be a little bit awkward, especially if everyone doesn't know each other. So people are going to be a little more hard pressed to kind of keep personal things closer to the chest. But I think this is an opportunity for people who are going through things, who might have certain skeletons in their closet, to be able to talk about those skeletons, talk about those troubling things that are happening to you, talk about the things that are affecting you spiritually, whether it might be drugs, whether it might be sex outside of marriage, and you're in a relationship and your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or your boyfriend and your girlfriend, what have you, and you're going through things in life where you're like, man, I know this is wrong, but like, that's my girlfriend, or that's my boyfriend, what have you. I think small groups should have an opportunity for people who might be struggling with homosexuality to be able to expound and talk about that in a group of people, to where they can get different opinions and different insights from different people who have walked down different roads. Again, we are all unique in this world. We all have unique fingerprints, and God works with people in a unique way. If God made all human beings to have a different fingerprint, separate from everyone else, from all the other billions of people who live on this planet, then why won't you think that God will uniquely deal with you and your problems in a unique way that is tailored to you? Again, all Jesus is the gateway to get to heaven. He's the only way for us to have a true relationship with God. However, many roads lead to Jesus. Not many roads lead to heaven, but many roads lead to Jesus. And Jesus is that one gateway for us to get to God. And I think the church, this is just my opinion, I think the church has failed miserably when it comes to talking about certain things that might not be the popular, lifestyle of the church. Again, Many Christians have been struggling with many things, whether it be drugs, homosexuality, sensuality, trans, gender dysphoria, and I think the church has ultimately failed when it comes to talking about these topics because, ooh, it's a little spicy, or ooh, I don't want to offend people by telling the truth. And it's like, folks, that is the reason why we are Christians. We see the truth. Jesus is the way, he is the truth, he is the light. So if Jesus is the truth, then we need as Christians to be able to speak and say the truth, even to our personal, our personal connections, whether it be friends, acquaintances, co-workers, what have you, family members. We as Christians should be able to speak the truth. Yes, speak the truth in love, like I said on my video yesterday. Speak the truth with love, but speaking the truth with love doesn't mean that you water down the truth to make it more easily acceptable. No, you speak the truth, and speaking the truth is in love. When you tell someone the truth, you're doing it out of love. Truth hurts, and as all of us know, as many of us know, our parents, if you were a child growing up, and you got spanked, spanking hurts. I got spanked a lot as a kid. And, yes, it was a painful ordeal to go through. But I never thought to myself, oh, my parents just hate me and just didn't want me here. No, my parents were doing constructive discipline. They were using something that was painful in order for me to see the error in my ways. And I think the church has lost that within, especially in this new modern era, we have lost that. No longer do we talk about the fire and brimstone. No longer do we talk about, heaven and hell. Mostly, we no longer do many churches even really talk about sin so much because, oh, it offends people, and sensibilities. And it's just like, Jesus did not care about people's feelings when he was speaking the truth when he was here on earth. Jesus is also not going to care when he shows up in the sky for all the world to see, and he raptures the church, and then he starts sending down fire from heaven onto a sinless, godless world. He's not going to be like, guys, I'm so sorry. Oh, I didn't want to do this. No, he's doing it because he is a righteous God. He is a judge, but also his mercy is everlasting for those who love him. If you don't love God and you despise God, you spit on him, you spit in his face, not to say that, he will, immediately reject you, but you keep on doing it. And after a while, God in his wisdom and his sovereign wisdom will just be like, fine, if that's what you want to do, go ahead, do it. Don't come crying to me when judgment falls upon you. So, again, I just feel like when it comes to small groups, we really need to have a more personal, and we really need to start talking about more personal things. And when it comes to attacks on, and Christians, we need to understand that Jesus did promise us that there will be trials and tribulations because we believe in him. And that's going to become more and more prevalent in our society, even here in America, because Jesus never said that, all the nations will hate you except for the United States of America because they haven't got we trust on our money, or because, we are, built upon as a Christian nation. Jesus didn't say that. He says, you will be hated of me by all nations, all nations. That includes the Western civilization. That includes over in the Middle East, which we already see that now. That includes over there in China and in Asia, which we already see that now too. That includes Africa. That includes everywhere. All nations will hate Christians because we believe in Jesus Christ. And we need to start expounding upon this and talking about this more and more because, as you well know, the mainstream media is against us. Popular culture is against us, but we as Christians need to start rising up and speaking out and doing more. So I hope that, gives y'all a moment to think, or whatever I said here in this video, will have you guys starting to think like, oh man, maybe he's got a point there. So I'm going to try to come up with another video today, but I appreciate you folks clicking on this video. If you like what I've been saying in this video and all the other videos and on this channel, please like, share, and subscribe, and try to spread this out to more people. But again, this is L.A. Hill, and I'll see you on the next one.